This morning, you closed a door. You did it without thinking. A small, private ritual that almost no other animal on Earth performs. You stepped into a room. You sealed yourself away from everyone you love. And you did something in complete secrecy. But the real story behind that door is far stranger than you would ever guess. For nearly the entire span of human existence, that door did not exist. The shame did not exist. The privacy did not exist. And the way your ancestors emptied their bodies would look, to your modern eyes, almost unrecognizable. You think of it as the most ordinary act imaginable. It is, in truth, one of the most revealing things a human being can do. Start with your body. Before any history, before any building, there is the machine you were born inside. Deep in your pelvis sits a muscle called the puborectalis. It loops around the lower end of your gut like a lasso, and most of the time it pulls tight, kinking the tube to keep everything sealed. That kink has a name. It is called the anorectal angle, and it is the reason you do not leak as you walk through your day. Here is the strange part. When you sit upright on a modern toilet, that kink does not fully release. The lasso stays half-tightened. Your body, in that posture, is quietly working against itself. So how was your body actually designed to do this? It was designed to squat. In 2003, an Israeli physician named Dov Sikarov ran a simple experiment. He asked volunteers to empty their bowels in 3 positions: sitting on a high toilet, sitting on a low one, and squatting on the floor, and he timed them and recorded how hard they had to strain. The squatters finished in about a minute. The sitters took nearly 3, and they pushed far harder to get there. Squatting straightened the kink. It opened the tube. It let gravity finish the job your muscles were fighting to complete. Your ancestors never strained the way you do. They simply dropped into a deep squat, heels flat on the ground, and let their anatomy work as it had for millions of years. The chair you sit on is the recent invention. The posture written into your bones is the squat. Now step further back. Picture the world before plumbing. Before walls. Before anyone had thought to be embarrassed. For most of the human story, there was no special place to go. You walked a little distance from camp. You squatted in the grass, in the dirt, behind a tree. There was no paper, no flush, no lock. There was the open ground and the open sky, and very often there was company. And here is what is hardest to picture. No one looked away. No one hurried off in embarrassment. Among many peoples, relieving yourself was simply something bodies did, as unremarkable as drinking water or scratching an itch. The flush of shame you feel, the instinct to lock the door, to lower your voice, to pretend the act does not happen, was not born in your biology. It was taught to you. Slowly, over centuries, your culture wrapped a feeling around the act that your ancestors would not have recognized. We know how they lived in extraordinary detail because your ancestors left evidence behind. Scientists call it a coprolite, fossilized, hardened human waste, sometimes thousands of years old. In the Paisley Caves of Oregon, a team led by archaeologist Dennis Jenkins recovered coprolites carrying human DNA more than 14,000 years old. Inside that ancient waste, researchers can read what people ate, what diseases they carried, even which plants they used as medicine. Your great-great-thousand times grandparents are still telling us their secrets through the one thing they never imagined anyone would study. Then something changed. People stopped wandering. They built villages, then cities, and they packed themselves together in numbers the open grass could never absorb, and the problem of waste became the problem of survival. Some of the earliest answers are astonishing. In the Neolithic village of Skara Brae, in Orkney, more than 5,000 years ago, stone huts were fitted with small drains running from indoor recesses out beneath the walls, possibly the oldest indoor toilets ever found. In the ancient cities of the Indus Valley, homes connected to covered street drains with a sophistication that would not be matched again for thousands of years. But the civilization that turned the act into a public ritual was Rome. Imagine a long stone bench. Imagine dozens of holes cut into it, side by side, with no walls between them. Imagine sitting there, shoulder to shoulder with strangers, holding conversation, discussing business, with no privacy whatsoever. This was the Roman public latrine, the Foracae, and it was completely normal. There was no shame in it. The door you closed this morning would have made no sense to them at all. And the paper? There was none. Instead, there was a sponge fixed to the end of a stick, shared between everyone on the bench, rinsed in a channel of running water and passed along. Now here is the twist your instincts will resist. You assume all of this, the drains, the latrines, the flowing water, made the Romans cleaner and healthier than the squatting wanderers who came before. It seems obvious. More plumbing, fewer parasites. It was not true. Piers Mitchell, a paleoparasitologist at the University of Cambridge, went looking for the proof. He gathered data from latrines, coprolites, and burials across the Roman world, examining the eggs of intestinal parasites preserved for 2,000 years. If Roman sanitation worked, the parasites should have collapsed. They did not. Whipworm, roundworm, and the organisms behind dysentery were as common under Rome as they had been before it, and in some places more common. The shared sponge spread infection. The communal water carried it. The warm public baths everyone adored were quietly stirring the same contamination through the whole population. The lesson is uncomfortable. Building a room around the act did not make it safe. Sometimes it made it worse. So why did your ancestors, squatting alone in open fields, often carry lighter loads of disease than the proud cities that followed? Because the trouble did not begin with dirt. It began with density. When humans crowded together and lived beside their own animals and their own waste, parasites and bacteria found a permanent highway between bodies. The anthropologist George Armalagos spent his career documenting this exact bargain, how the shift to farming and settled life, the very thing we call progress, often brought new diseases, weaker bones, and worse nutrition. Your wandering ancestors were not primitive. In many ways, their bodies were better fed and less infected than the city dwellers who replaced them. Which brings the story back to your body, and to one strange fact about the modern world. We now study this act with real scientific seriousness. In 1997, two researchers at the University of Bristol, Stephen Lewis and Ken Heaton, published a simple chart sorting human stool into 7 types, from hard pellets to liquid. It is called the Bristol Stool Scale, and doctors around the world still use it every single day to read the health of your gut. Something your ancestors did wordlessly in the grass is now a measurable clinical signal, printed on charts in hospitals, decoded by specialists. And the throne you sit on to produce that signal is younger than you imagine. The flush toilet you use did not become common in ordinary homes until barely a century and a half ago. For the overwhelming majority of the 200,000 years your species has existed, no human being had ever seen one. The posture you treat as normal, knees below hips, body folded into a right angle on a ceramic seat, is an experiment your species has been running for only a handful of generations. Your gut has not yet agreed to it. And yet, for all that knowledge, look at what you have built around it. A locked door. A sealed room. A silence so complete that the act has become almost unspeakable. You have surrounded one of the most natural functions of your body with more secrecy than your ancestors gave to almost anything. They squatted in the open, side by side, talking. You hide. You whisper. You apologize for the time you take. And there is one more echo of the ancient world you carry without noticing. Watch what you reach for the moment you sit down. A glowing screen. A scroll of distraction. You do not squat and finish in a minute the way your body was built to. You sit, you strain, you linger, and you fill the time with images, turning the oldest, simplest act into something slow and strangely lonely. Your ancestors were never lonely there. They were never ashamed. They squatted under open sky, finished quickly, and walked back to the people they loved without a second thought. So tomorrow morning, when you close that door, remember what it really is. Not a fact of nature. Not a thing your body asked for. It is an invention, a very recent, very human story wrapped around the most ancient act you will ever perform. The door is new. The shame is new. The screen in your hand is new. The only old thing in that room is you.